Here today, in the shadow of the capital of Washington State, I will be interviewing Supreme Court candidate for Position 5, Judge Sharonda Amamilo. Currently, Judge Amamilo serves as a justice on the Thurston County Superior Court, which she won in a historic election in 2020, becoming the first person of color, man or woman, to hold the position. Today, I am proud to sit down with Judge Amamilo and discuss her qualifications, her upbringing, and her wealth of experience as she vies for Position 5 of the Washington State Supreme Court. My name is Lawrence Haskins, and this is Commentary. Thanks for taking the time to sit down. We're here in the shadow of the state's capital, and we're excited to talk with you about your background, your experience, and your current run for Position 5 of the Washington State Supreme Court. But let's just start, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about your background, where were you born, and the type of upbringing you experienced.
Yes, my family's huge, right? My mother's the oldest of 10 and my father's the oldest of 6. And I was raised amongst cousins and aunts and uncles and a bunch of love in rural North Carolina. And that's just really solid background, because when you have the support that you need and the encouragement that you need, and right, Lord, lots and lots of prayers, you really can see yourself bigger in the world. You can see that the world you're just part of this big constellation of love, but then ultimately my background is just one that just really was a great launch pad.
Awesome. So lots of support, lots of love. How did your upbringing inform you in terms of your identity as a Black woman in America? Absolutely.
As I indicated, I came from a small rural town in North Carolina, and it was clear that there was a divide. There's a highway that runs, it's called Old Highway 74.
Okay.
And there's a new Highway 74 now, but Old Highway 74 still runs straight through Evergreen, North Carolina. And on one side of Old Highway 74, which part of it is downtown Evergreen, the folks that live in the brick houses on one side, and then on the other side, the folks that live in the not brick houses or lived in communities that were not as middle class, I should say. Sure. I personally did not live in a home with running water until I was 9 years old. And so my parents, fortunate enough, were met with those traveling salesmen with the Encyclopedia Britannicas, right? And my mom had a set in her house, my mom and dad had a set in our house, and my grandparents had a set in their house. And wherever I was reading Encyclopedia Britannicas as soon as I learned how to read, and I knew that the world was bigger than Evergreen, North Carolina. And so that was really encouraging to me.
Awesome, awesome. So you were in the military, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, what can you share with us about your military service?
Yes, I'm not your typical person that joins the military fresh out of high school, young person. I was already married with 2 children, so had a little bit of maturity, had some job experience under my belt, but I really wanted to be able to have a job wherever my husband went.
Right.
So, and that really was the impetus for joining the military. When I first joined the military, though, I really wanted something practical. I'm a very practical person.
Okay.
So when I first went to college, I was interested in electrical engineering from being in Air Force ROTC as a high schooler. But I didn't stay in college in the beginning. I got married and had kids. So I said, okay, I'll just go and do signal work, like telecommunications, things like that. But I didn't get out of the basic, welcome orientation, because they had my scores from the ASVAB that you take.
Sure.
And they said, yeah, you shouldn't be in signal, you should be in signal intelligence. So they switched me to becoming an analyst, intelligence analyst.
Wow, okay. And then, so is that the path that led you to Washington State?
Yeah.
Was it the military?
Yeah,
okay.
It was from Texas to Fort Bragg, where I was in a tactical unit. I am a paratrooper. I am an airborne soldier. Then to Germany, to 1st Armored Division's G2, the command unit's security, intelligence and security processing division. And then I deployed with them to Saudi Arabia in support of Operation Desert Storm. Okay. And then during the drawdown with the senior George Bush president, I was then relocated permanently to Washington State, where I completed my first term of enlistment.
Oh,
In 1992.
In 1992.
Yeah.
A very short time ago.
Yes.
So upon coming to Washington State, I would imagine, it's a lot different than from where you grew up.
Yes,
right?
it is.
And so what did you like most about the state and its citizens when you arrived in Washington State?
There's a lot of opportunity here. I always planned to go back to the East Coast.
Okay.
Right? Because entire I-95 corridor is my family, from Miami to New York. Right? And I grew up in the summertime. Summer trips were up and down I-95, lots and lots of time in Myrtle Beach, but just lots of time up and down I-95. So I always intended to go back. But I found here is that you could really get your life together here. Right? I was able to find work when I got off active duty. I was able to go to school. I started going to college in January of '93 and working full time and going to college at night for 10 years straight through 2003. Got an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's in business administration, and a law degree.
Wow.
So
all here in Washington State.
And that was a conversation between me and my husband. Like, I planned to go back to the East Coast, and we never got there. 23 years later, I never got there, but I built a great life here in Washington.
Right. And your husband, his name is Ruben, right?
Yes.
And he's actually here on set.
Yes.
We're not gonna put him on blast or anything. But he's been your husband for 28 years.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you guys
Almost 29.
Almost 29 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you guys have planted some pretty deep roots here.
Yes, we have.
Tell me about your family.
Yeah, so when I came here in '92, I had 4 children already,
Okay.
And then change of life. And Ruben and I, when we married, that made 5 children together. And then together we have 2 additional children. Our youngest is 26 years old.
Wow.
So we have 7 children between us, and we just on June 10th welcomed our 7th grandchild into the family. So we're a very, very blessed family.
Wow. So very deep roots here in the state of Washington.
Yes. Our children grew up here, went to public school here, graduated high school here, all of them, and so then launched their adult lives.
Nice. Okay.
So, and I should say that we have a lot of military in our children. Our oldest, which is the only boy of the 7, he served a year in Iraq. Our second oldest girl retired from the Air Force Guard. She was 19 when she went in. She's 40 now. Mm-hmm. Then our daughter that had her son in June, that's about a month old now, she is a captain in Oregon National Guard, and she commutes to Oregon to do her military work, but she actually lives here in Shelton.
Nice.
And then the daughter that's 2 years or 4 years older than her did 4 years in the Guard and Reserve. And then our youngest is a first lieutenant in the Army Reserves. Wow. So we have 5 of the 7 have served or are serving in the military.
So a family with a strong tradition of military service.
Yes.
And a sense of duty to the United States of America.
Yes, and they are also employees of either the state or the federal government. Many of them, they're very much service-oriented children, social workers, just outstanding children.
So following in mom's footsteps.
I think we say we have one set of rules between us, and we had 7 different interpretations of that one set of rules as a parent. But I think they found their own path. We've always been encouraging about everyone's born with a specific set of just expert gifts. Okay. And I think they're blazing their own trail and finding their own path because they are very independently strong in their own right.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's turn to your experience.
Sure.
Which, by all accounts, is substantial. I'm going to read some of your qualifications here, some of your experience. So you earned your BS from Southern Illinois University.
Yes.
Your MBA from St. Martin's College.
That's correct.
Right here in the Olympia area.
It's university now, St. Martin's University now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you got your JD from Seattle University School of Law. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to become a lawyer?
Yeah, our children and younger, when they were younger, this was once when we were living in Tacoma and then when we were living in Graham, our children were facing some labeling and some responses to behavior that really would have sent them down to a very concerning track. And if anyone knows what Title I is, they do these testing, and kids do bad on testing. They start labeling them as needing, special academic supports and all that sorts of thing. Well, one of them was receiving that sort of response to just having a bad test day. And now almost 40 years later, I guess 35 years later, 33 years later, that same child is a retired Air Force senior sergeant and a very accomplished computer support person.
Right.
So, when you first start seeing things and you're a young parent, you're not quite sure what's going on. You know what experience you're having with your child at home. This child's an avid reader. She's super advanced in the things that she was doing academically at home and had been doing before. Just one test now decides, what label my child gets. And I became hypervigilant at that time. And then fast forward, our son then was a freshman in high school, and he was experiencing some bullying. He was not very robust. He wouldn't have been your linebacker on the football team.
Right.
And he was just being bullied, and we were following all of the student handbook requirements in terms of what to report to teachers and administration, and following the rules. And he just wasn't protected during that process. And then ultimately, when he decided to protect himself off school property, he was accused of being the aggressor, and he was accused of being the one that might face some sort of juvenile justice response.
Sure.
And that terrified me.
Right.
And so I started doing research about the incidents of, I'm no longer in rural North Carolina. I'm no longer in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I graduated high school from, where I can see a very stark, difference in how maybe some of the disparities that we see in society. I wasn't seeing that here. It was more subtle.
Yeah.
Until it became, actual in my face. And so I started doing some research, and I realized I just didn't know enough to protect my kids in the way that I felt they needed to be. I needed to know in advance to be proactive versus reactive.
Right.
And I'm a very curious person anyway. And what I found alarmed me, so I went to law school. At that time, I was tenured faculty at Bates Technical College. I had almost completed my master's degree, I think. Almost completed my master's degree.
Bates Technical College in Tacoma.
In Tacoma.
Okay.
I had almost completed. I was finishing up my master's degree, because I finished up my master's degree in December of 97, I think, and I started law school in June of 98.
Wow.
So it was back to back to back.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of drove me, just to get more information. And then I learned a lot about how I can help people. So that's really how it all began.
Okay. Well, so that sets it up nicely. Let's talk about actually what it took for you to become a lawyer, the actual grind. So if I understand it correctly, you took your classes at night.
Yeah.
While you worked full-time during the day.
That's correct.
Talk to me about that and what it was like mentally and emotionally for you to pull that level of journeymanship off.
You're not alone. I'm not alone. I have a fantastic husband who I don't think I would be sitting here with the energy that I have, because he makes sure I'm fed. He makes sure I have my coffee. He's not so good about sending me to bed on time, because I kind of resist. I'll go to bed, but I don't necessarily go to sleep all the time.
He sends the judge to bed?
Well, because it's like, woman, you have to rest your brain.
Right.
It's that sort of thing.
It's love. It's that love.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's stern sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to be honest, it is stern sometimes, but it is the necessary partnership, having a joint objective of what we're trying to achieve, the foundation, the legacy we're trying to build. All of that is critical. So, and I'm only doing one thing at a time. Like right now, I'm talking to you, Lawrence.
Right.
I'm spending this time with you. And every time I'm doing something, I'm doing that one thing at a time, trying to do my best in the moment. And just knowing that it's bigger than me. It's always been bigger than me. The motivators have always been bigger than me. So
you got through those long hours with the assistance of your husband, helping keep you focused, keep you nourished.
Taking care of the kids.
Keep you fed. He held the kids down while you were studying.
Yeah.
Wow.
The last two were born during law school. So the our first shared child together, I went back to law school 6 days after giving birth. So you just do what you have to do.
Let's clap. Let's clap.
I was also, I did take a year off. So the 3 years that people normally finish law school, I took 5. I took a year off in between that child, and then we got pregnant with my youngest child, and that pregnancy was just hard. It was just hard.
Yeah.
So I took a year off and then came back. And then in my last year of law school, I was activated for deployment.
Yeah.
And my law school career was disrupted about 60 days before graduation.
And that was for Operation Enduring Freedom.
That was.
In, what was that, 2003?
It was.
Okay.
It was in March of 2003. I was activated on March 13th with a report date of March 18th.
With 60 days left in law school.
That's correct. Graduating in May of 2003.
When duty calls, right?
When duty calls.
So with 17 years of experience as a lawyer, in 2020, you felt the call to pursue a seat as a Superior Court judge for Thurston County.
Yes.
17 years of legal experience in law, trying cases in family court, criminal cases, things like that. And then you're like, you know what? I think I am now, because I have this experience, I can really serve the judiciary well, right? What in 2020, from your perspective, what in 2020 made you feel like that was the time to seek the seat of a Superior Court judge for Thurston County?
Yeah, so what people might not capture is that I spent my first 4 years out of law school in private practice. So I had not only, by the time that 17 years came, I had experience in civil law in federal court, complex civil litigation federal court, complex adult felony experience in felony court. I had complex civil litigation in state court and adult felony in juvenile felony in state court as well, and then child welfare and some family law and small business. I was using my business degree as small business consulting and small contractor bond defense in private practice before joining the public defender's office. But by the time 2020 came, I understood a lot about systems, the systems outside of the court that people bring with them in terms of just their life stories into the court. And all those years of being a military intelligence analyst, it really informs how you look at the world, right? There's this big picture, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information, but once you drill it down to, what your target is, you really can fathom and fashion, a way forward for this individual. And so when I left the public defender's office, I went specifically and contracted with the Office of Civil Legal Aid. And I restarted just a small portion of small contractor bond defense as well in private practice for that 1 year between 2019 and 2020. My whole goal, Lawrence, was to get upstream, was to take all that knowledge from public defense and private practice, that 17 years of knowledge of systems work, also working in work groups, statewide work groups as an attorney on some of that opioid crisis work, some of that economic disparity work, pilot programs to get people's driver's license reinstated while I was a public defender so that they could get through the court system and get back to work. They could then drive again. Like taking all of that knowledge upstream, I left the public defender's office to go find out what type of experience foster youth were having in foster care. Right. What was happening in foster homes? What kinds of policy decisions were being made? And how could my experience help inform the stakeholders in a different way, educate the court in a different way about what the experience of foster youth was? My position 8 in Thurston County Superior Court was held by then presiding family court chief, Judge Ann Hirsch. I had been in front of Judge Hirsch a lot of times. I mean, for years and years and years. And I had learned over time some of the things that were very important to the judiciary. Before becoming a judge, you don't know what kind of training judges are getting. You don't know what kind of information they are getting. I'm here to tell you that we remain very much involved and committed to intellectual rigor and training and trying to get it right. Judges are trying to get it right. We get a lot of training about how to get it right. And so in getting upstream though, I learned that there's still pockets of information that judges could benefit from. So I started, from my senior perspective, bringing that information to the courts. I had a very intentional contract, 50% in King County, 50% in Lewis County, to compare the urban and rural experience of children in foster care and the families, not only the licensed foster parents, but also the grandparents and other extended type family, even fictive kin in some cases,
right.
Supporting families. During the time that I was enjoying myself, helping foster youth and families and all of their constellations of support around them. I was at IEP meetings at school. I was responding to disciplinary meetings. I was going to behavioral health evaluations with my youth. I was literally immersed. Judge Hurst decided she was going to retire at the end of her term.
Boom.
And that opened the door for an opportunity to continue to go upstream. My phone started blowing up. I started getting emails and texts from a lot of friends and confidants, people that I really, really trust about what I bring to the table.
And those were people who were familiar with your commitment to intellectual rigor.
Yep.
And constantly educating yourself about the systems.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so they asked me to consider. I did a lot of soul searching. I talked to my family a lot, and I talked to different members of the judiciary. I went and sat and talked with every single sitting judge at Thurston County Superior Court.
Wow.
Individually, and then I made the decision to run. That there would be value added to the court.
The 2020 race was historic.
It was.
In that you are the first person of color, male or female, to hold the seat of a Superior Court judge in Thurston County.
Yes, I am.
Please elaborate on what that feeling was like and what that means to you. And also to have the endorsement of so many people encouraging you to run because you had made such a reputation for yourself.
And I didn't realize it at first.
Right.
You don't really realize it at first because the work that you're doing to get you there, to get you ready for something that monumental, not just to you, but to the community. Just realizing that people are always watching.
Right.
People are always watching. And when you're doing your work, you're not really thinking that people are always watching, but they are, and you find out. But when it was the most impactful was when I received feedback from the constituents in the courtroom.
Right.
Right. On the campaign trail, people would say, "We're just so glad you're running. It's so fantastic." I mean, we know the demographic population and makeup of Thurston County. African Americans are about 3%.
Right.
Natives are maybe a higher percentage than African American than Black, and the population of Black and Brown is much smaller here.
Right.
So my work was just with the people and trying to make sure that the people got what they needed and that I was doing my part. Right, when I had to represent someone, that I was making sure I was doing the best thing possible. But once I was in the courtroom, when participants walked into the courtroom, and especially participants, whether they be family members or just observers, when people came with their children, little girls of every ethnic group were impressed and like, wow. Little boys, African American boys were very impressed. I had mothers stay after court and say, "My son just wanted you to know that he was excited to see you." Litigants, they're excited to see me. Like, wow, it makes a difference. And I think we've been talking a lot in Washington State about you'll hear about a rule called GR 37. We know that there's always an interest on all sides about justice reform and not having a disparate impact on all different types of the people, the citizens of Washington State. We come from every corner and we are of every hue. But we're talking about the jury, right? Your right to a jury of your peers, and a jury being composed of the members of the community, and that being a fundamental right, that being a constitutional right. And I'm finding that the reaction to me being on the bench has been that impact on people, that a judiciary that is reflective of the people who are the participants, and i.e. customers, the citizens of Washington State.
Right.
Really shouldn't that also be considered a fundamental right?
Right.
Because of it breeds that, improves that trust in the rule of law. It breeds that everybody's going to be treated fairly.
And your historic election as a woman of color represents that balance.
Yes.
For many.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've come to learn that. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just real quick, run us down a list of all the positions you've held throughout your legal career, because you even hold a position on the national stage.
I do.
Is that correct?
I
but
do.
Yeah, but run down just the list of positions you've held and that you currently hold.
Yes,
sorry.
you mean as a judge?
As a judge.
Yes. So we'll start with the national stage.
Sure.
I am the Supreme Court's appointed Hague Convention network of judges, and that is very important because we deal with every state in the nation deals with a lot of cases in which parents are from different countries, and there might be custody issues related to jurisdictional matters. And I serve as the point of contact for Washington State. I don't want people to get the impression that I'm presiding over these,
Sure.
these cases, but I am the liaison that if there is a point of contact that needs to interface with the State Department, then that would be me as the person that they would reach out to if they didn't know, who to reach out to in terms of which court, which judge, which where, and I would be the person to help make sure they get to the right court, the right venue,
Sure.
to ensure that as timely as possible, to ensure that the issue that's related to this child custody matter is
Right.
addressed timely.
Wow, huge responsibility.
Yeah, it is. And I've learned so much about how more often these types of things are raised just in our regular non-immigration type family law cases or custody cases. And I think it's important that people understand that. Then I'm also on one of 4 judges from the Superior Court Judges Association that are on the Sentencing Guidelines Commission.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only judge on the DCYF Oversight Board.
What is DCYF?
Department of Children, Youth, and Families.
Okay, got it.
And that board really is statutorily mandated to provide oversight. And the Department of Children, Youth, and Families essentially shares with us their programs and policies and their objectives and outcomes. We don't decide for them and we don't direct them, but we do provide a degree of oversight that essentially is to facilitate their success in trying to reach strategic objectives that aren't harmful to children and families. And that's not just the child welfare side, it's also the juvenile rehabilitation administration. So
nice.
that work is very important. I served on that. We've already finished our work, but there was a 2-year Alternatives to Incarceration Task Force where we focus on the therapeutic responses that we're seeing, because we're seeing an uptick in behavioral health issues impeding people's ability to have successful lives in the community. Everyone's aware of the substance abuse. We had the opioid crisis when I was an attorney, and I was the defense attorney on the statewide opioid work group.
Right.
And now we have the fentanyl crisis. And I was at the inaugural summit on Monday of the response for the critical incident response. Mm-hmm. And that the focus is not so much that there's a increase in the number of critical incidents and fatalities of children involved in child welfare, because the numbers have come way down. It's the immediacy of the harm. Right, fentanyl doesn't take any time. It can go skin to skin. You're holding your baby, and the next thing you know, your baby has an overdose.
Right.
And so it's just because it's just so immediate,
Mm-hmm.
and that really is. It really is important for us to understand. What else is going on in the constellation of the family's lives, but at the same time, making sure we have the ability to protect those children. So that's what that summit was about,
Okay.
and. It's important because we also have to balance any disparities in how we carry out that where's our focus? Are we looking at everybody? Are we responding to everything in a uniform way? And I think that's important. I also served on the Jail Standards Task Force. That's another statewide group. I serve on the Family and Wellbeing Community Collaborative. That brings in, all of these work groups are multidisciplinary. They have legislators, so they have policymakers, they have county commissioners, sometimes city council, they have judges from rural and urban counties and suburban counties like Thurston County. They have research scientists. So they're very well-informed work groups. So this collaborative process with all these different decision makers and people who are at the highest levels of their careers, we come together and we just share all of our experiences so that we make the best informed decisions. But mitigating any unintended collateral consequences. Because once you know, you have to do better.
That's right.
Once you know, you have to do better.
That's right. That's right. So to recap your experience, you served as attorney in private practice.
Yes.
And also as in the public defender's office.
Yes.
Complex criminal cases, child cases, pretty much every kind of case you can think of.
Every kind.
For 17 years.
Yes. Yes.
And then an opportunity came in 2020 for you to make an historical statement, being the first woman of color, the first person of color, man or woman, to become a judge on the Thurston County Superior Court. During your time as a judge, you serve on multiple councils. One is you're a liaison on the national level for The Hague. I think everybody knows what The Hague is. It's a big deal, right? You are on the board for DCYF. You serve on the Sentencing Commission. So you have all this wealth of experience, which perfectly sets up to now we can turn to your current bid for Position 5 on the Washington State Supreme Court. So speaking of experience, I think we can all agree that experience is important.
Yes.
So your experience speaks for itself. And as a voter myself, I have independently researched some of the candidates. And for example, Theo Angelus, he is the interim Supreme Court Justice for Position 5, and he was appointed by Governor Bob Ferguson. But during my own independent research, I noticed that, he doesn't have really any experience in the judiciary, serving in the judiciary. He was a lawyer for, I believe, K&L for some time. And, he did some cases there, but nothing in terms of really enmeshed with the needs of the people. He was a lawyer for corporations. In that backdrop, can you explain to us, as a sitting judge, why is it important for you that an experienced judge ascends to Position 5 of the Washington State Supreme Court? Why is it important that a judge earn their seat?
I want people to know that Washington has different pathways to any judicial position, right? There is the appointment process, but there's also the election process, but there's also the ability to get ready, right, for such a monumental responsibility. Right? And I think the experience matters because when you are enmeshed to the degree that I am, I could have been elected to the Superior Court and just serve my time. There's no requirement that I serve on all of these different commissions and work groups and immerse myself out in the communities and work across counties, volunteer to be visiting judge in rural counties, as I've had the opportunity and privilege to do and serve those different communities. There's no requirement to do all of the things that I've done, but I want to do well.
Right.
I want to do well. I want to know the impact of my decisions. I want to know if people can comply with what I order. I want to know if I'm articulating my rulings in a way that the person that's most impacted. In a criminal case, the people most impacted when it's appropriate or when it's relevant, the people most impacted are the defendant and the victim.
Right.
Those people need to understand my rulings. When I'm in a child welfare case, the people most impacted are the parents and the children collaterally, but also the social worker needs to understand the expectations. In a complex civil litigation case, especially the statewide impact, the agency appeals from the Administrative Office of Administrative Hearings. Thurston County Superior Court is the appellate court for all state agency appeals, right? And when we make a decision in Thurston County regarding a state agency appeal, it applies 39 counties wide.
Wow.
No other county has that.
Wow.
And that's a difference that's unique about me as a trial judge in this race, right? The nuances of how a decision lands on an individual. I've had something that felt like the Hatfields and the McCoys in my courtroom deciding property line disputes that have been going on 17, 20 years between neighbors.
Right.
And so just, that knowledge of how decisions land on people. I've made thousands of decisions. Before becoming a judge, I was an advocate. You had to pick a spot in your strategy, and that's what you had to advocate for. I was an advocate. Yes, I was an advocate. I've not been an advocate for a long time now. And in order to do my job well, I believe that I have to be fully informed about all the spokes in the wheel, right? Mm-hmm. The courthouse is this, for me, in my universe, is the hub. And everything else that I have myself involved in are spokes that contribute to what happens, because people bring all of that into the courtroom, how they've been impacted by school systems, how they've been impacted by the justice system prior, how they've been impacted by carceral systems, how they've been impacted by economic opportunity.
Right.
I continue to serve, I continue to offer my business background by serving on the board of the Washington State Microenterprise Association. Economic justice is a real thing. And
Right.
missed opportunities for people are real things. And just knowing all of that and offering my gifts to the discussion, to the improvement of the system, really informs me when I have some fact patterns in front of me. Individually, I don't know what they're going to be before they get in front of me, but I have a frame of reference of how those things are going to be impactful. Going up to the Supreme Court, when we make a decision as a collective body, having these robust discussions, I will be that voice in the room talking about how this is likely to be heard or understood or needing to be clarified more down at trial court level.
But a voice that is informed by a wealth of experience.
Yes.
And proactive community work and commitment to intellectual rigor.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
so
correct.
Not just a voice that's speaking in a void with no perspective, with no experience in the judiciary, and the complexities it entails.
And I want to be fair.
Yeah.
Right? You can learn these things. Anyone can learn these things. It's one thing to learn the theory, but when you are in the midst of the consideration, and you are receiving information from all these different sides, nuance comes from experience.
Right.
Right? Understanding nuance and the full scope of the experience that you have, combined with the exercise of fidelity to the law, and then applying this very very well developed intellectual analysis. Not only is it also informed by the work that I did in terms of my intelligence analysis and training. I'm a Chief Warrant Officer 4.
Right.
That is a field grade level officer in the military. Briefing generals, providing information to leaders who have to make consequential decisions that could lead to life or death. So I've always been very well grounded in how important my decisions are, and that's why I think it's important that you have the experience, like in real time, for an extended period of time with very complex issues. And that's what the Superior Court brings, because the Superior Court is the appellate body for all the lower courts, not only the Office of Administrative Hearings, administrative appeals, but also district courts and municipal courts. The Superior Court is the one who creates the record that goes to the Supreme Court. They don't get new facts.
Right.
So Superior Court judges are the ones that are developing that record.
Right.
So that's why I think all of that's very important.
So if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is to kind of bounce off your military experience, is a Supreme Court justice being ready via experience on day one is like a combat veteran who's actually served in the trenches,
Right.
versus someone who is trying to get ready on day one who may have played in a simulator,
Well,
but they've never really been in the trenches to really get the real experience.
I really shy away from any sort of flippancy about it.
Right.
Because even if you hadn't been in the Supreme Court, right, you still had to do something consequential to be considered to be on the Supreme Court, right?
Sure.
Right. But it's the type of things that Washingtonians face in their Superior Court which separates me from the field, right? I am the candidate that has had all of these years of experience practicing in the Superior Court. I've been a Superior Court litigator,
Right.
trial attorney, Superior Court judge for Washington State. And operationally, everyone who understands Washington State courts understands that the Superior Court judges are also an administrative body running the court in their county, right? So we make operational decisions, we make personnel decisions, we make court and case flow decisions, we have policies and procedures, we make local court rules. So we're taking this experience and saying, I am a member of a board of judges from the administrative, during the administrative side, separate and apart from being a trial judge, right? Separate and apart from being a contributor to the growth and development and improvement of the justice system overall and all of these different work groups. And I'm coming to the Supreme Court, and administratively, I have the administrative background of not only large-scale administration of operations as a military person, but also as a member of a board of 9 judges in Thurston County, where we're 9 judges making a decision, 9 judges on the Supreme Court. Now the administrative piece I would just be learning how they do things, but not being unfamiliar with what needs to get done. We promulgate local rules, they promulgate statewide rules for all 39 counties. So there is a lot of transferable skills that I bring to the court along with my experience.
Right.
I would say that you can learn those things, but if you haven't been doing those things, the learning curve might be different.
Excellent. So let's talk national politics then.
To the extent that I'm capable.
The Voting Rights Act has been gutted by the Supreme Court. Immigration protections for Haitian and Syrian immigrants have been taken away. And other concerning changes are in the offing, right? How essential for Washingtonians, right? How essential is it to have a qualified Washington Supreme Court justice seated to protect Washingtonians from the gross injustices happening on the federal level?
So, everybody characterizes things different, and we have a very diverse voting base of constituents in Washington State. So some people hail the decisions and some people decry the decisions. For Washington, though, we have a constitution that is extremely protective of all Washingtonians. And so to the degree that the decisions coming out of the U.S. Federal Supreme Court conflict and try to take away rights or make decisions that say you don't have certain constitutional rights that conflict with Washington State Constitution, you need someone that can see the nuance of that, like the subtlety of that. And my personal experience is that I have family members who have earned their residency through hard work and commitment and, deference, and swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States. So I'm paying attention to those things. But I know here in Washington State, we have protections that need people who will be able to see all the nuance, stand in the gap. Just yesterday, I routinely every month, I preside over cases involving special immigrant juvenile status guardianships.
Okay.
And those are unaccompanied youth who are trying to gain status. I don't make federal decisions about whether or not they get status, but this is a step where the first clearing step as to whether or not they meet basic criteria under Washington law to be able to apply for status. So I'm very careful about reviewing those sorts of things to make sure that I don't cross over outside of my lane if we don't enforce federal law.
Sure.
The Voting Rights Act is another one where that case, you're talking about Calais versus Louisiana, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That case was, I think it sent ripple effects through the United States, through the nation. It caused some constitutions in other states were not robust enough to protect all of their citizens in their state. But Washington State's Constitution has already been tested since that decision, and it is upheld as it should, the rights of all Washingtonians and our ability to not be manipulated in ways that create unfair disparities in different groups.
And you have a high commitment. It's a very high bar for you to overturn precedent.
Absolutely.
Is that
absolutely
correct?
That is correct, because it is there's more tools than what people understand that they have. The voters have a lot of power. They have a lot of power, and I think as much energy that goes into raising alarm about what might happen in court, the same amount of energy needs to go to educating voters about what their power is versus telling them what they should do. Right? How to move grassroots, how to influence across the aisle, how to bring issues to the forefront so that legislation feels more balanced. Because once legislation is written, the court does interpretations, and the court is vetting those things against the Constitution. The court is vetting those things against precedent. The court is looking at this very high bar and saying, is what I'm being asked to interpret whether to overturn or to uphold, am I being asked to do something that is addressing something that is being harmful? Is what is in place, has it been harmful, right? Was it wrong? Is it having severe unintended consequences? How long has it been established? What's the history every time there's been a question, right? Because you understand that once precedent's established, people make business decisions.
Yeah.
People make decisions about, whether or not to get married, have children. They make decisions about where to live.
Right.
They make monumental decisions that have lifetime legacy impacts on them and their communities and their futures. So I get worried. I have been getting worried on the campaign trail because sometimes in order to simplify things too much, I hear conversations that are trying to put the Supreme Court race in this single issue category, and it can't be. The Supreme Court touches everything that you care about. In my capacity as president of the board of the Washington State Microenterprise Association, I attended the first industrial symbiosis conference in Washington State last month. And just the developments in clean energy and energy efficiency and, the circular economy and all these opportunities for businesses, large and small, communities, rural and urban, to really benefit from the next wave in the future of how we are going to collaborate together.
Right.
What types of rules might need to be looked at in order to keep moving Washington forward. As a policy-making body, the legislature has its job to do, but as I was listening during this conference, I was taking down a separate sheet of notes of, okay, what kinds of regulations might come out of this? What kinds of questions might come out of this? So, you know, it is very important that people realize that precedent is extremely important. There's a very high bar for upsetting precedent, addressing it at all. Mm-hmm. But we have to make sure that people are very committed to walking the crosswalk and making sure the voters know that if you don't like what the legislation is doing, if you don't like the interpretation that the court is forced to make based on the law, the framework that we have and the Constitution that we have here in Washington State, you have power too.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Judge Amamilo, I really wanted to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us, like I said, under the shadow of the beautiful Capitol here in Washington State,
yes,
and sharing about your family, your wonderful husband, Ruben, your children, your grandchildren,
yes,
talking about your experience, you know, the wonderful journey you had. I mean, the incredible journey you had in actually becoming a lawyer, you know, working during the day and then taking those classes at night, and how you have a wealth of experience in private practice and as a public defender with these complex civil and criminal cases, and then how you were inspired in 2020 to run for Thurston County Superior Court and be the first person of color, man or woman, to ascend to that seat. And now you are postured and poised to take position 5 of the Washington State Supreme Court, and with your commitment to intellectual rigor, to the wealth of experience you have serving on all these committees that you outlined, you know, we really believe that Washingtonians are going to benefit from people who have the objective view and experience like you. So again, I just really want to say thank you so much for sitting and talking with us and taking time out of your schedule. I understand you have a campaign event later today. You sounded tired. Just the yes. There was so much exhaustion in the yes, but we know you're up for the task.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much for sitting with us.
You're welcome.
And we're excited to see where the race takes you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a wonderful experience, a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.